and welcome to Mesmerized, a Trancecast, where we explore the mysteries of hypnosis. It is my honor today to introduce a special guest all the way from the other side of the world from me, from Nepal. I'd like you to meet Bhasker Puri. Bhasker Puri is a psychotherapist and a hypnotherapist who, like me, specializes in developing new hypnotic inductions. And that's why we've got him here as much as possible to talk to us about this subject. Welcome. Yes. I should explain that we do know each other from Nepal. I traveled there and shot a documentary there, and we also did demonstrations of hypnosis, comparing styles of hypnosis in North America, in the West
and the East.
Exactly, west to the east. And maybe I'll ask you, what did you notice is a difference between the hypnosis styles from the West to the East?
From what I understand, in the Eastern style, it's more like a behavioral approach rather than a verbal approach. In Western style, the verbal expressions are given a lot of emphasis. In Eastern styles, it's more like a little bit more of a behavioral approach.
So, for example, in Western styles, we use terminology like relax and then sleep, and the language is important. While are you saying in Eastern, it's more we will look at behavior first?
Yes, also the guiding will be done much by behavioral aspects, meaning like if they want you to let out the trauma, they want you to shiver, right? They want you to throw it out, and instead of asking you to shiver, they would actually maybe tap you on both of the shoulders, like tap, 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 tap. It would like hint you to start shivering or something. So something like that.
So in the West, we would say, okay, it's shivering time. What you're talking about is the theory that we release trauma through this shaking behavior. And in the East, we would just start generating the behavior, or help you generate we coach you into generating the behavior, maybe without talking too much. Is that what you're saying? That would be the difference?
Yes, sir.
Interesting. Okay, well, today we are talking about inductions, and we should probably explain what that means. So in hypnosis, every hypnotic process, or every, I would say, profound hypnotic process usually starts with a hypnotic induction. Maybe I'll try a definition, and maybe you might have a slightly different definition, but the hypnotic induction is ultimately the kind of doorway, a doorway between the, let's say, normal, what you might call your normal alert state, and the hypnotic trance. That's how I would define it. And there are many styles of inductions, many approaches to inductions, and you and I both believe that a lot of this area is unexplored. There could be many other forms of inductions. Now, let me ask you how you would define inductions, if you would define it differently, or if that works for you.
So mine is also quite kind of similar. So I would define it as inductions, as in what would induce hypnosis. In better, simpler words, what would be the bridge between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind, the literal bridge.
And that is the induction.
Yes.
Well, those are two very complementary definitions, I would say. So excellent. I agree. That's beautiful. I like your definition. So let me maybe give people an example. So to make it concrete for people, or more concrete, there are some common sort of areas or categories of hypnotic inductions. The one that people are most familiar with are called progressive relaxation. That would be the kind where you would sit in a chair, the hypnotist talks to you in a relaxed way, and often uses metaphors similar to going downstairs or going to a relaxing place, or a body scan induction where you relax all your muscles. And the idea there is that the person feels safe and is gradually relaxed into a hypnotic state. Now, one would ask, isn't that enough? Shouldn't we be happy that why do we need more inductions? Why isn't progressive relaxation enough?
So why isn't it enough, Albert?
Okay, well, you can turn the question back on me because for some people it doesn't work. It just simply doesn't work. They might find it relaxing, but they don't arrive in deep trance. And those of us who follow this game know that there are very profound trances available. And profound trances, though, it's always dangerous to make too many rules in this business. But generally speaking, profound trances, deeper trances, are places where more can be accomplished. And they're definitely more profound in the way they feel to the person. But I don't want to disparage shallow trances. They have their purpose as well. But the reason why we need new inductions is that progressive relaxation inductions can't hypnotize everybody, and they get boring. If you've done a few of them, novelty is a factor in this business. And if you've done a few progressive relaxation inductions, you had them done on you, you get, here we go again, going down the stairs again, gets boring. So changing up the inductions is a good idea. So there's classic inductions called for example, the hand drop induction, the butterfly induction. These are inductions I've often done in stage hypnosis. And I developed an induction called the float induction. Why? I've had many clients come to me, and maybe you have this as well, who are looking for a induction that is good for self-hypnosis. They want to hypnotize themselves. And a lot of the self-hypnosis inductions, from my experience, are a little bit either take a lot of work and are also not so effective. So I wanted to develop an induction that was simple and drops people into trance quickly. And so the float induction can often do that. I can't pretend it does it for everyone, but it does it for a lot of people. What about you? What are the inductions that we've kind of talked about developing?
So I really like the one we did with the lights. So while I was practicing it with my clients, the light induction for people who have difficulty visualizing things, the blinking light inductions, which we will go into detail about later, it really helped the people having difficulty visualizing to visualize it even more clearly. They had good active visualizations. They were able to create pathways and go back and forth also.
Now, we should probably explain this because this is important, is that, so there is a challenge. There are many people who believe that they are not hypnotizable or not good at going into trance. And there's been this phenomenon noticed in different occasions that flashing lights can hypnotize people who might be difficult subjects. And there's the history of it is quite intriguing. There's a famous example of a guy in France riding on a train during a sunset. And as the sun set through the trees, the light flickered on his eyes and he went into a very deep trance. And then he spent the rest of his life trying to understand what happened to him. We know that this sort of flickering light effect can actually take people and put them in trance. And there are apps available that you can get. Some of them are either very cheap or for free. There's also very expensive lamps that you can pay $15,000 for US for that will basically flash lights in your eyes, but they put you into trance. So we have discovered, you and I, that there's just apps that you can get, at the App Store, and you can use this to hypnotize. Now, what are the kinds of people that you find will respond well to this strobing light induction?
So, firstly, people who are too logical or haven't given enough time to their creative, relaxing sides. People who have trouble actually relaxing in general, if you can just have the light in front of you in a reasonable distance, find your balance, near, far, etc. And yeah, it will really help you take your mind off of things, everything, and it will help you get the light in front of you. When there is the light in front of you, you already start to imagine things. You already start to vivify, visualize things. And it really adds up in the whole process. It takes you even further inside of your mind. And now, it's really beneficial.
This is new to me. I mean, I have seen the strobing light inductions as a way to work with people who have a hard time going to trance. You're going a step further. You're saying famously, there's some people who can't go into trance because they say they cannot visualize. They just can't visualize, which I find kind of amazing because I figure everyone can visualize. But this seems to bridge that gap. It seems to get people, in your view, who aren't visualizers to visualize. Is that fair?
Yes, Albert. Yes.
Fantastic. So this is something I should explain that we're both developing. If people want to try the strobe induction, they should get in contact with us. We use strobe. We give you an app that you get on your own phone, and you strobe while we run a hypnotic induction on you. And this is something that might be interesting for people who consider themselves hard to hypnotize. I had this experience myself where I used the Lucia #3 light, which is a very expensive, as I mentioned, $15,000 light, but that light will put just about anybody into trance. So what we were looking for was a workaround, because not everyone can have a $15,000 light in their house. But the principle is available to anyone. Flashing lights is not so hard to find. So that's a really interesting induction. Lately, I should explain maybe an induction I've been working on, which is I like simple inductions, and I've been working on a very simple idea. As you know, we work a lot over Zoom, both you and and I wanted like a very, very simple, the simplest, easiest induction to hypnotize people really fast. So, as you know, when people go into trance, their eyes tend to roll up. So I just call this induction the triple eye roll. All I say to people is take a deep breath in. I say, while you are staring at the Zoom screen, roll your eyes up once and let go. Look back at the Zoom screen, roll your eyes up again, look back at the Zoom screen. Now roll your eyes all the way back as far as you can. Beautiful, and relax and go into deep and relaxing sleep. Deep and relax. Beautiful. Dropping down all the way. And now you can go down the stairs and relax and go by the lake or by the seaside and take it easy and go into a beautiful and relaxing and comfortable trance. So this induction, very, very simple. How did you find it?
It's really good, Albert. It's really good.
Nice and just very, very simple.
And very effective.
Okay, good. I'm glad to hear it. Yeah, I was like, to the point. That's what I was thinking, to the point. So this is an induction that can be done over Zoom, and is, of course, very easy. We should maybe break down for people. So we should break down for people what makes a hypnotic induction work, because there are some interesting theories. So I don't know, how would you explain why hypnotic inductions put people into trance?
So in most cases, we put ourselves into trance many times a day. Some people find it while they're driving, some while they are reading a book, some maybe in their hot showers, or simply just lying down. So it's like semi-trance, not a deep trance. Even if they are trance, they are not being able to utilize it to their best. So we find ways where you find yourself going into trance in the most effective way, which is very tailored for your specific personality type or for yourself. And I think it's really beneficial if we can go into trance in our desired ways. So, yeah.
So what you're saying is that naturally human beings go into trance anyways, but what's weird is I think that are they as deep as a hypnotic trance? So you mentioned being in the shower. A lot of people go in the trance in the shower. Are they in a deep hypnotic trance in your view, or are they just in a light trance? Because they don't stay there for long. They get out of the shower after a while, but they experience time distortion, usually some of the indicators of trance. So I guess my question would be, are those trances that as people go through their day the same as the trances that people experience when a hypnotist puts them into a deep trance?
I would say while the hypnotist puts them into a trance, the trance is way, way, way deeper and much safer as well.
Yeah, I think so too. I actually think it is a more controlled business. It really is something, yeah, more structured. I'm trying to give an example, but some of the shock induction trances that I'll give you an example of another one that I developed. So one of the principles of hypnotic inductions are, so let me give you, I think, what are the sort of probably 5 principles. There might be more, but I'd say the first principle is extreme relaxation. If you get someone so relaxed, they will naturally slip into trance. So that's your shower. You're so relaxed in the shower, you just slip into trance. You're safe. You feel good. You don't care about anything. You're in trance. So that's the first one. The second one, surprise. When you surprise somebody, so I would say you create momentum towards relaxation. So this is classically the hand drop. I wonder if we can almost fake it here. Hand drop induction would be you ask the person to put their hand on your hand. So if you're to put your hand on my hand, and then when you push down, I pull my hand away, and you drop forward, and I say sleep. And usually you drop into trance. This is a famous induction, probably the simplest and one of the most effective inductions. It works using shock and surprise. The person pushes their hand down when you ask them to, you pull it away, and at that exact moment, just like an eighth of a second later, you say sleep. And because the person is trying to reorient at that exact moment, the sleep command goes deep if they are already moving towards relaxation, in my opinion. And then they will drop into what you might consider a faint or a trance. And if you hold them in the trance, they will stay relaxed, they will feel good, and they've entered a highly suggestible state where they can make internal change. So these inductions are useful. They're useful for creating change in people. So that would be 2. 3, confusion. So confusion, this is a weird one because I don't think we think of confusion as naturally creating trance. But when you confuse people, if you think about your brain just being overwhelmed, so I'll give you a classic example of a confusion induction. So there's a theory that we can't pay attention to more than 3 things at the same time. So some inductions use that basis. And so I started thinking, really, that's an interesting principle. So I developed an induction called the Triple Eye Induction. Very simple idea. You just say to somebody, if they're close up to you, you just say, look at my eye. If you don't mind, stare at the black pupil, the black part of my eye. And while you do, breathe. So you want to breathe and focus, stare at the black part of my eye. While you're doing that now, I would like you to stare at both the black part of the eye and the iris, colored green, in my case, I guess green-blue. Stare at both of those at the same time. Same time. Are you staring at both of them at the same time? Good. Now, see if you can stare at the black part, the green part, and the white part of my eye all at the same time. Make sure you're staring at 1, 2, 3. Now sleep, deep and relaxed. I don't know if it put you into trance, but that will often put people into trance.
So there's like we stare at our palms and cross it 3 times induction.
Right.
I wouldn't know what to call it.
This is the one we actually developed together called the hug induction. And I remember this quite clearly. The idea is that, hugs are good. There's a lot of science saying everybody needs to get hugged every day. And most of us don't. Most of us don't get hugged every day. So maybe you can just hug yourself, personal responsibility. So our idea was, the way I do it is I say, take a deep breath in, put your palms in front of you, stare at your right hand, watch your right hand go past, back and forth. You're going to do this once, twice, and you already feel weird, 3 times. Then now you just drop your hands, drop your arms, and now you hug yourself. And what's interesting is try it without doing the 1, 2, 3, and notice the difference. It's not nearly as powerful as when you do the 1, 2, 3. And I think that's because you're sort of creating a little bit of confusion and also a little bit of trance, so that it feels a little bit like someone else is hugging you. And it might actually be your unconscious mind. This is the whole idea of this induction, why we love the hug induction. It's your own unconscious mind hugging you and you coming into a good relationship with your own unconscious mind. That's the idea. Did I explain it well?
It's quite clear, yes.
Okay. So
what do you feel about inductions being used on everyday basis, Albert?
What do you mean by that? Meaning,
if people find one induction that is suitable for them, can they just use it every day, or should they be switching between inductions? What is your opinion on this?
I think it depends on the person, but I think that's a very good point, that I think that in hypnotic practice, that sometimes people, like literally if somebody comes to you as a subject or to do hypnosis work, and every time they come to you, you do the exact same thing. Okay, now we're doing the hug induction, or now we're doing put your hand on my hand, or whatever it is, then there's a sense of, here we go again, that you can get tiring. And I think the advantage of changing up inductions is just to create, human beings are designed to seek novelty. We like new and interesting things. And so we want to try and learn new things. I also just think different inductions can achieve different results. So we were talking about an interesting thing called the phone induction. People, you want an example of where people are hypnotized in life, a lot of people are hypnotized by their own phones, right? Their own phones. They literally, you can see them staring at their phones. And they would actually say, I'm not hypnotized, which is a lot of what people say when they're hypnotized.
Mm-hmm.
But they are doing all the things that hypnotized people do. They're staring, eye fixation, breathing is changed, a lot of trancey things. So why not use the phone as a hypnotic device? Doing the phone induction.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're being fairly fast and loose with inductions, but people should understand that these inductions can produce very deep trances, some of them, in that the state will change very dramatically. we're talking about these things kind of lightly because we're throwing around and brainstorming different ideas, but I think it's an exciting approach, and it also helps people understand the nature of hypnosis, or the nature of human imagination. You know, like the very basic hypnotic induction is the story. I'm going to tell you a story which begins in a beautiful meadow where there's a little pond and a little bench. So just telling a story begins to put people into trance. And this aspect of our brains is very much universal. Everybody has it. The story induction is probably the most basic and the universal induction. And what's interesting, it's also probably the most human induction, because it probably wouldn't necessarily work on, you know, a wolf. On most animals would not want a story induction, or it wouldn't work on them.
They wouldn't be susceptible to storytelling.
No, not at all. And I think even the behavior of storytelling would not intrigue a goat, for example.
Human beings, we are already prone to hypnosis, and we have been doing this naturally since the early ages by storytelling people. And even the storyteller enjoys it, and even the people listening to the story enjoy it.
That's right. Yeah. So the point is, there's so many different inductions that are possible. And one way of looking at it too is that what I have found is when clients come to me, I sometimes even think of developing an induction just for them. That can be done. You can invent an induction that just is for that person. So I should explain that if you want to catch more of this, I'm actually going to be speaking at HypnoThoughts Live, which is the largest hypnosis conference in the world. It's coming up in Las Vegas towards the end of July, and I'm going to speak about how to create inductions and the point of creating inductions. So this gives people a little taste, but I think this can be an ongoing discussion because it's actually so interesting. Like I said, is that, you know, there's only a small percentage of people, in a way, not small, but there's a chunk of the population that considers itself hypnotizable. And I think our job is to expand that number to make more people feel like this is something they could benefit from. We have benefited from hypnosis as subjects, and I think we would feel like, oh, it'd be nice if other people did too. Maybe for a last question, where do you see the future of new inductions going? What I'm worried about, actually, I should say, is that AI that knows more, that is starting to know more about human behavior, biology, flashing lights, shock, is going to start developing hypnotic inductions. We've done this experiment, you and I, where we've actually gone to ChatGPT and gotten ChatGPT to write inductions.
Which was not bad. Which was not bad.
It was not bad. So you have to worry what happens down the line when ChatGPT becomes a really good hypnotist. It's not that far away.
True. And I think that is very necessary because, yes, we will be prone to hypnosis by the AI if we don't have a general understanding of hypnosis or inductions.
I think you're right. And what that tells me is that it's a really good subject for a future Trancecast, which is how to block or protect yourself from hypnotic suggestion. I think people have a sort of false idea that the only time that you are vulnerable to hypnotic suggestion is when somebody is going, I am hypnotizing you now, which is really not the case. People are always trying to influence you and sell you things, and they're not necessarily speaking like hypnotists. So yeah, I think you're very right. If people knew more about how and when to block hypnotic suggestion, that would be a good thing. On that note, this has been a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much for talking to me about inductions. For those of you who might feel that you're in trance, you are now encouraged to be wide awake and alert. I hope you enjoyed this experience. It was great talking to you, Bhasker. And thank you, and hope to see you soon.
See you soon.